If you're over 60 and still forcing yourself to drink green tea, hoping it will finally shrink your belly, stop right now. What if I told you that the very thing you've been relying on might actually be keeping that stubborn belly fat locked in place? And what's even more shocking is that there's a simple, calming tea most people overlook that works while you sleep, not by stressing your body, but by helping it relax and release fat naturally. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why belly fat after 60 isn't your fault and the one nighttime habit that could finally change everything after 60. Stubborn belly fat has far less to do with willpower or how many calories you eat, and far more to do with what's happening inside your body. This is the part most people never get told, and it's why so many men and women feel confused and frustrated when the methods that once worked suddenly stop working. Your body goes through real biological changes with age, and ignoring those changes only leads to burnout and disappointment. Hormones shift significantly as you get older, including insulin, cortisol, and the hormones that regulate appetite and fat storage. These hormones play a massive role in where fat is stored, and after 60, the body naturally prioritizes storing fat around the abdomen as a protective response. This isn't a failure. It's a survival mechanism that simply hasn't caught up with modern lifestyles. Stress also affects the body very differently after 60. Things that once rolled off your shoulders may now linger in your system much longer. When stress hormones like cortisol remain elevated, the body receives a constant signal that it needs to conserve energy and store fat, particularly in the belly area. This is why chronic stress, even low-level daily stress, can quietly sabotage weight loss efforts without you realizing it. Dieting harder or exercising more often only adds to that stress, making the problem worse instead of better. The body responds by slowing metabolism and holding on to fat even more tightly. Sleep becomes another major factor that cannot be ignored. As we age, deep restorative sleep becomes harder to achieve, yet it becomes more important than ever for regulating fat-burning hormones. Poor sleep disrupts hunger hormones, increases cravings, and reduces the body's ability to use stored fat for energy. When sleep is compromised, the body shifts into survival mode, prioritizing fat storage over fat loss. No amount of calorie cutting can override this biological response, which is why so many people feel stuck despite eating less. Blood sugar control also changes after 60. The body becomes less efficient at handling glucose, leading to more frequent spikes and crashes. Each spike sends insulin into the bloodstream, and insulin's main job is to move sugar into storage, often straight to the belly. Even healthy foods can trigger this response if the body is already sensitive. This means that weight gain or stubborn belly fat is not always about eating poorly, but about how the body processes what you eat. Managing blood sugar gently becomes far more effective than aggressive dieting. All of these changes point to one important truth: weight loss after 60 is no longer about pushing harder, but about supporting the body in a smarter, more compassionate way. When hormones are balanced, stress is lowered, sleep is improved, and blood sugar is stabilized, the body naturally begins to release stored fat without force or struggle. Green tea has earned its reputation as a healthy drink, and for many years, it genuinely helped people lose weight, especially when they were younger. The problem is that what works well for a 30 or 40-year-old body doesn't always work the same way after 60. The main reason green tea is praised for fat loss is because of its caffeine and catechin, compounds that stimulate the nervous system and slightly increase metabolic rate. In a younger body, this stimulation can translate into more calories burned throughout the day. But after 60, the body's response to stimulation changes in ways that most people never realize. Caffeine becomes a double-edged sword as we age. Instead of gently boosting energy, it can overstimulate the adrenal system, especially if you're already dealing with poor sleep or chronic stress. This overstimulation leads to higher levels of cortisol, the primary stress hormone. Cortisol's role is to protect you during perceived danger by conserving energy, and one of the ways it does that is by signaling the body to store fat. Unfortunately, cortisol has a strong preference for storing fat in the abdominal area, which is why belly fat becomes so stubborn and so emotionally frustrating after 60. Another issue with green tea is its effect on sleep. Even small amounts of caffeine can interfere with deep sleep in older adults, sometimes without them realizing it. You may fall asleep, but your body doesn't reach the deep, restorative stages of sleep where fat-burning hormones are released. This creates a vicious cycle where you feel tired the next day, rely on more caffeine, and unknowingly keep cortisol levels elevated around the clock. The body remains stuck in a state of stress, making fat loss increasingly difficult no matter how disciplined you are. Green tea can also subtly impact blood sugar in sensitive individuals. Caffeine can cause short-term spikes in blood sugar, which then trigger insulin release. Insulin's job is to move sugar out of the bloodstream and into storage, and when insulin is frequently elevated, fat burning is essentially turned off. Over time, this leads to greater fat accumulation around the belly, even if calorie intake hasn't changed much. This is especially relevant after 60, when insulin sensitivity naturally declines. The most misleading part about green tea is that it feels like you're doing something healthy, which can mask the fact that it's quietly working against your goals. You may feel disciplined, consistent, and committed, yet see no change in your waistline. This can lead to self-blame and frustration, when in reality the issue isn't effort but biology. After 60, the body responds far better to calming, supportive signals than to stimulants. When stress hormones are lowered instead of pushed higher, the body finally feels safe enough to let go of stored belly fat. Chamomile tea may seem simple, but its effects on the body after 60 are surprisingly powerful, especially when it comes to stubborn belly fat that refuses to go away. Unlike stimulants that push the body harder, chamomile works by creating the internal conditions that make fat loss possible. One of the most important ways it does this is by lowering cortisol levels at night. Cortisol is the hormone that tells the body to stay alert and hold on to energy. When it remains elevated into the evening, the body stays in fat storage mode. Chamomile gently signals the nervous system to relax, helping cortisol levels fall naturally so the body can shift from storing fat to releasing it. Another major benefit of chamomile is its effect on sleep quality. After 60, deep sleep becomes harder to achieve, yet it becomes critical for fat metabolism. During deep sleep, the body releases hormones that repair tissues, balance blood sugar, and mobilize stored fat for energy. Chamomile doesn't sedate the body or force sleep. Instead, it supports the natural sleep cycle by calming the mind and relaxing the muscles. This allows the body to move more easily into restorative sleep stages where fat burning actually occurs. Blood sugar regulation is another key reason chamomile supports belly fat loss while you sleep. As the body ages, it becomes more sensitive to fluctuations in blood glucose. Even mild spikes during the night can trigger insulin release, and insulin tells the body to store fat, especially around the abdomen. Chamomile has compounds that help stabilize blood sugar levels, reducing nighttime spikes and crashes. When insulin remains low overnight, the body is free to tap into stored fat instead of locking it away. Chamomile also supports digestion, which plays a bigger role in belly fat than many people realize. Poor digestion can lead to inflammation, bloating, and water retention, all of which contribute to a larger waistline. Chamomile soothes the digestive tract, reduces irritation, and supports the balance of beneficial gut bacteria. When the gut is calmer, inflammation decreases, and the belly naturally appears flatter over time. This reduction in inflammation also makes the body more responsive to fat-burning signals. What makes chamomile especially effective after 60 is that it works with the body rather than against it. Aging bodies respond best to safety and stability, not pressure. By calming the nervous system, improving sleep, stabilizing blood sugar, and reducing inflammation, chamomile creates the ideal internal environment for gradual, sustainable fat loss. The body doesn't feel threatened, so it no longer clings to excess belly fat as a protective measure. Instead, fat loss becomes a natural byproduct of better internal balance rather than a force outcome driven by stress or restriction. Drinking chamomile tea 30 to 60 minutes before bed may seem like a small habit, but for people over 60, this timing can make a meaningful difference in how the body processes stress, sleep, and fat storage. The body operates on rhythms, and when those rhythms are supported consistently, everything from hormone balance to metabolism begins to work more smoothly. Having chamomile too early in the day doesn't create the same effect because the goal is to influence what happens during sleep, when the body does most of its repair and regulation. Giving the body the gentle signal shortly before bedtime helps set the stage for a more restful night and a healthier metabolic response. Making chamomile tea a nightly ritual is just as important as the tea itself. When you repeat the same calming behavior each evening, the brain begins to associate it with rest and safety. This association lowers stress hormones automatically, even before you take the first sip. Over time, the body learns that this moment signals the end of the day, allowing tension to release more easily. Lower stress in the evening means lower cortisol levels overnight, and when cortisol drops, the body no longer feels the need to protect fat stores around the belly. The ritual aspect also encourages mindfulness, which plays a surprisingly powerful role in fat loss after 60. Sitting down, slowing your breathing, and sipping tea without distraction helps shift the nervous system out of fight or flight mode This shift is essential because fat loss cannot occur efficiently when the body feels threatened. A calm nervous system supports digestion, sleep quality, and hormone balance, all of which influence how fat is stored or released during the night. Consistency is what turns this simple habit into a powerful signal. Drinking chamomile occasionally can feel pleasant, but it's the nightly repetition that retrains the body. Over time, sleep onset becomes easier, nighttime awakenings may decrease, and the body spends more time in deeper sleep stages. These stages are when fat-burning hormones are released and when blood sugar regulation improves. The body becomes better at using stored fat for energy instead of relying on constant glucose supply. Another benefit of a nightly chamomile ritual is its impact on late-night cravings. Many people over 60 struggle with evening snacking, not because of hunger, but because of stress or fatigue. A warm cup of tea provides comfort and satisfaction without spiking blood sugar. This alone can reduce unnecessary calorie intake and prevent insulin surges that promote belly fat storage. When the body is nourished emotionally and physiologically, the urge to snack naturally diminishes. By treating chamomile tea as a nightly signal rather than just a beverage, you're teaching your body that it's safe to rest, repair, and release what it no longer needs. This gentle approach aligns with how the body changes with age, making fat loss feel less like a battle and more like a natural response to better care and consistency. Consistent habits become far more powerful than extreme diets or intense workouts after 60 because the body responds best to stability rather than shock. For many people, years of dieting and pushing too hard have trained the body to expect stress. Each time the body senses stress, whether from heavy restriction or exhausting exercise, it activates survival mechanisms that slow metabolism and increase fat storage. This is especially true for belly fat, which the body views as a protective reserve. When habits become gentler and more predictable, the body finally feels safe enough to let go of that stored energy. Light movement, such as a short evening walk, plays a key role in this process. It doesn't spike stress hormones the way intense exercise can yet. It still improves circulation, digestion, and blood sugar control. After dinner, a gentle walk helps muscles absorb glucose more efficiently, reducing the need for insulin. Lower insulin levels mean the body can access stored fat more easily, especially overnight. Over time, this simple habit can significantly reduce the tendency to store fat around the waist without overwhelming the body. Consistency also supports hormonal balance, which becomes increasingly important with age. When meals, movement, and sleep follow a predictable rhythm, hormones like cortisol, insulin, and melatonin begin to stabilize. This stability allows the body to function more efficiently and reduces the internal chaos that leads to weight gain. Extreme approaches may deliver short-term results, but they often disrupt these rhythms, leading to rebound, weight gain, and increased frustration. Another overlooked benefit of gentle habits is their impact on inflammation. Intense exercise and restrictive diets can increase inflammation in older bodies, especially if recovery is insufficient. Chronic inflammation makes fat loss more difficult and contributes to bloating and discomfort around the abdomen. Gentle movement, adequate rest, and calming nighttime routines help lower inflammation, allowing the body to heal and function more smoothly. When inflammation decreases, the belly often appears flatter even before significant fat loss occurs. Gentle habits are also easier to maintain, which is where their true power lies. Sustainable fat loss is not about what you can do for a few weeks, but what you can do for years. A nightly cup of chamomile tea, a short walk, and mindful eating are habits that fit naturally into daily life. They don't require motivation or willpower, just repetition. Over time, these small actions compound, leading to meaningful changes in body composition without the mental and physical exhaustion that comes from extreme efforts. Perhaps most importantly, gentle consistency fosters a healthier relationship with your body. Instead of viewing it as something that needs to be controlled or punished, you begin to see it as something that responds to care and support. This shift reduces stress, improves self-trust, and reinforces habits that align with long-term health. When the body feels supported rather than pressured, fat loss becomes a natural outcome rather than a constant struggle.